Is it working?
Yep, you're live.
Fabulous. Hello, Facebook world. It's exciting, something new. Anyways, so everyone here, I'm so excited that you all continually come back and join me on this journey, kind of like a carnival ride. For me, it's been exciting, and I love just to see the growth in the praise reports that have been happening and coming through. We are on week 7 already. We skipped Easter week, which was such a blessing, but Easter was amazing, both service-wise and just the downtime for fellowship and family. With that, we'll go ahead, open in prayer, and we will hear some praise reports and dig right in. All right. I'll let Cassie get a drink here. Are you ready?
It is good. So we are ready.
And you can move White Tiger if you need to.
No,
That way it's
White
not
Tiger
in
is
your
good.
coffee.
I like White Tiger.
Perfect. All right. Father, we just come to you today and we thank you for this time of fellowship and friendship, and all the good food and the hands that provide it. We know it's blessed and be nourishment to our bodies. Father, we also know that we've come here one way, but we're going to leave here changed. And we just ask that you open our hearts and our minds to the word that you have for us, Father. And I pray that each and every one of the individuals here and those watching and listening receive something from you and from myself today, that I am just your vessel, that you are pouring your word out through me and to those and reaching the lives and touching the world all around. And I just praise you and we thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
So normally we like to, real quick, raise up our Bible. We're going to go ahead and lift that up if you have one. Like LaDana, it's all colorful over there. This is my Bible.
This
This
is my
is my
Bible.
Bible.
I am what it says I am.
I am what it says I am.
I can do what it says I can do.
I can do what it says I can do.
God said it.
God said it.
I believe it.
I believe it.
That settles it.
That settles it.
Amen.
Amen.
I really do believe that. For me, I'm a very literal person. I'm a very rule follower person. And when I can be shown it in there, and I can be proven it works in there, and I can be proven it works on the earth and in the natural and spiritual realm, I'm all for it. Last couple weeks I was struggling with a label that was placed on something, and I really had to work through it. And it was based on this, but it was also just based on kind of a belief system. And I struggled with that. But I went, they're not wrong, this is not wrong. And ultimately, if it comes down to a label, it's just an attack. And it's something that they just see that's not working for them, or it's just something maybe they haven't got that revelation of yet. And I'm okay with that. And then the other part of it was that it was related to some good friends of mine. And my own personal connection and revelation was that trying to go both ways of whether it's this label or that label, I was just trying not to let this person down, versus where I had to go, Lord, show and reveal to me what this is and how it works. And it come down to, again, I was trying to please somebody versus going, they're going to love me and accept me for who I am and the Jesus that's inside of me. And so that's just kind of my thing the last couple weeks since we've met. But I hear Cassie has some praise reports, 2 or 3 of them. I'll let her pick which one or two.
Well, they're all kind of related. I go to another class called Holy Spirit, and I was challenged to go into my prayer language more. And I started to go into my prayer language and turned around, and I was in the shower, and I turned around and fell backwards out of the tub and hit my head. And what it revealed was that nobody could hear me, and that was a little scary, but I didn't receive the pain. I didn't receive a head bump or anything. I actually drove our family to church that same night, asked another couple of ladies in the church that I'm really good friends with, and I was just like, I kept telling God, I'm going to still go grab a couple ladies and, stand on that where two or more agree that this is not going to be something that affects me. And sure enough, there was no side effects or anything from it, and I hit it pretty good. It was more shock than anything. And so, and then I also prayed over my little girl just last night, and she was just like, Mommy, my stomach hurts, I can't sleep, and just reminded her, the power that rose Christ from the grave is the same power that we can use to heal our bodies, and that he is our healer. And she said yes, she agreed, and her belly was great, and I heard nothing else from the bedroom, and she went to bed just fine. So it's just testament that I just need to be in that prayer zone more often, and so I'm loving it.
Yes, and you were able to also get property and a
Well,
small
the
stick
property is
yours.
the
but
property
you've got
was always ours.
so you got a building for it. So
we
you got
did. We
the box for a home.
yes,
Of your own.
we have a shell to start our home, and my husband's boss is I guess the biggest blessing in our life. He's just like we've only known him just a few months, and he already considers Keith a brother, and just like he goes out and buys tools, and he's like, we can actually use this in our business, so I'm just going to buy it instead of rent it, and told us that whatever else we need, he'll get, and Keith can just work it off whenever they get busier. So it's amazing, just the people that God puts in our lives to just help us get where he can see us going. And actually, I had a vision for the small group that I wanted to start over the summer.
Yay!
We already have kind of like a fire pit going,
Nice.
and I was just like, well, it's the summertime, and
Yeah.
and I can meet in the evenings when it's a little bit cooler,
Absolutely.
and they're teenagers, so I don't see that being an opposition. So an outside prayer, small group for some teenagers that God has put in my life
That's awesome.
with God's. The foundational message is just God's direction for their life, for their next steps, because a lot of them are graduating this year. So that was just in the last couple of hours.
Yeah, that's awesome. How about you, Elle? No?
Got a lot of prayer requests, though.
Do you have those?
Mm-hmm. Our
We know
company.
He's good. He's
Mhm.
faithful, and he will supply those.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Miss Ashley?
This week was busy
Yes.
and interesting, and yeah,
Hey, we had.
yesterday we ended up at the ER because Cadence bumped something very sensitive, and I totally forgot about it. and today I was walking and I was like, she hasn't said anything about any pain, anything. And immediately when it happened, like I'm running across the playground, but I'm just praying and going, God, you got it. Like I'm just there to comfort my child. Like God's already comforting me. He had me covered. There was like no panic. We went to the ER. Like she was chill. I was chill.
Awesome.
I've never taken such a calm drive to the
Yes.
ER. Literally, she
Hey.
fell asleep on the way to the ER after 2 minutes before, like, screaming and losing
Right.
it. And I was like, oh, wow. And so I just kind of, the devil tried to tell me a lot of horrible things that would happen. I was like, nope, no thank you. And that was it. And it was done and finished and over with. And
Awesome.
Cadence is back to being Cadence.
Yay! I love it. Also on Facebook, as you watch this, if you have any praise reports, go ahead and put them in the comments, and I would love to read them later and just share with the group as a whole. So with that, we're going to jump right in. We're starting at It Hurts to Forgive, for those taking notes or needing a place to start. I think we're about halfway through the book we're going through. It's called Hi God, It's Me Again by Nicole Crank. It's a 60-day devotional, but I found that one, it changed my life, but two, as I started this study group, that each particular day or portion can be taken even further and deeper, and that's kind of what I'm doing and breaking it down a little bit more is to understanding or just giving a different viewpoint of each part. So tonight we're starting with It Hurts to Forgive, and I'm going to try to put those there. So we've all, mainly moms, lived some life, and we have those hurts, and those hurts that, kind of like we've heard bumps and bruises, but we've also had those hurts that it's really left a mark. There's a scar there. There was severe pain, there was emotional, there was maybe physical hurt, but we have those hurts that are deep and create those wounds. And for me, I've had them, and I believe the rest of you all have, that as you go through life, though, and as you go through your day-to-day, that you'll run into something that will bring back that remembrance of that hurt, that pain, whether it's a thought, a familiar face, maybe it's a song on radio, or it's a smell, maybe it's grandma baking or cookies, but it's those that rise up that pain, and you go, ooh, I was good till then. And it's those pains that for me, I thought that was buried, thought it was gone, I had suppressed it, I didn't want to remember it. And I find that in those instances it comes rearing back up, and it's when I want to forget. It's that when those emotions come back, it creates that bitterness in me, but then it makes me realize that there's a brokenness that I don't want to face. And with that brokenness, though, I want to fight, but I know to fight would be wrong, but I just want to cry, because I'm like, it just hurts so bad that whatever the situation or the individual, it's, they're getting away with something, and I'm still sitting here suffering. And Hebrews, are you ready? Yes. Okay. All right. Hebrews 12, 14 through 15, just kind of talks about that bitter and brokenness of how either affects us or that we're holding on to it.
Okay, Hebrews 12, 14 through 15. Strive to live in peace with everybody and pursue that consecration and holiness without which no one will ever see the Lord. Exercise foresight and be on the watch to look for after one another, to see that no one falls back from and fails to secure God's grace, his unmerited favor and spiritual blessing, in order that no root of resentment, rancor, bitterness, or hatred shoots forth and causes trouble and bitter torment, and the many become contaminated and defiled by it.
So, as we have that brokenness, that bitterness that comes rushing back on us like waves, coming against the shore, as you heard there in 14, that we're supposed to live in that peace and that calm of the Lord. But if you don't have that, or you don't know how to find that, it's difficult. And again, it's most of this is for me. I just get to share it like live counseling, so it's great. I get to just be honest, and it is in though that, again, it's something I just don't want to deal with, and my personality is quite that way, that I don't like conflict. I don't like resistance. I'm more passive, so if I don't have to, if I can just ignore it, I say I would feel I'm better off, when ultimately that's probably not the best way to do it, because I'm not resolving anything. Now, we know, and our book says, God says forgive, and we're supposed to, but that's tough. He doesn't say forgive, he says forgive 7 times 77. Now again, they didn't have calculators and supposedly math. Their math was a little bit different than ours. But what if we looked at that? But sometimes for me, I go, I may not be forgiving, but that's how many times I'm thinking of the problem, the situation that just come rushing back from that memory that was triggered. And that forgiveness, though, it's a big thing, because that hurt is real. But so is the answer, so is that peace and that calm once it's resolved. Matthew 18:22 talks about that forgiveness.
And it says, Jesus answered him, I tell you, not up to 7 times, but 70 times 7.
And that's to, can you go back a verse?
Back a
there?
verse, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it says, then Peter came up to him and had said, I was about to ask you that, said, Lord, how many times may my brother sin against me and I forgive him and let it go? As many as up to 7 times? Jesus answered him, I tell you, not up to 7 times, but 70 times 7.
Right. So it's in those that have done us wrong, hurt us, whether again it's that physical, that emotional. Most of the time I think emotional hurts worse than physical. Physical can almost, you can see the healing of it, where emotional, we can just suppress it and hide it and it never get resolved. And that's the hardest part. That's, for me, I found that's the worst. Again, because it's in those triggers, those, maybe it's an expectation that's not being met, that Ellen and I were talking about earlier, that there's expectations in relationships that either are stated or unstated, and when they're not met, it's
There's
difficult
conflict.
because you may have a past where that same expectation wasn't met, and there was a lot of word or there was a lot of action, but it just was never brought up to that standard that we had. Now, we're supposed to let it go. He says forgive, let it go. But that's difficult. We know that's difficult. But if we let it go, we look at it as, hey, our offender's getting off the hook. They haven't paid their justice. They haven't paid their dues. I haven't gotten them back yet. You know, don't go, don't leave. I haven't got you back yet. It's kind of a joke at my house when we kind of tease each other, pick on each other. It's like, no, I haven't got started yet. We haven't even begun. But it's holding on to that is an offense. You're in offense. You're in bitterness, and when you hold on to that, you're harboring in strongholds, which we talked about before. But Ephesians 4:27 talks about holding on to offense.
It says, leave no such room or foothold for the devil, give no opportunity to him.
Yes. You want to close that door, because when you're holding on to offense, you're basically drinking poison and you're wanting the other person to die. It's just not going to happen. Not in realistic. It's just not going to happen. Because you're going, I'm suffering, I'm hurting, but they should have to pay for it.
They should
When
have to
you're
suffer
holding
too.
yourself captive.
Yeah.
Let me look at my book. I have a note here. I don't remember what it was. Okay, so on page 101 is where I'm at, just remembering my own notes. It's, as we letting our offenders off the hook, it's, we view it as maybe they're living happily, they're doing just fine, but who says that? Who says they're not hurting? Who says they're okay? Because they may be hurting too, because that issue hasn't been addressed. Because, you know, we look at it as the other person's, you know, living as if nothing's happened. Well, maybe they don't know something's happened because they don't know that they've either offended you either by words or they offended you by an action. But we all know that we're unhappy because of that. But the one who can control that, the one who's holding that, is ourselves. And only you can release it. Only you can go, you know what? It doesn't matter if they hurt me. It doesn't matter if they said something wrong. It doesn't matter if they wronged me. I have to go, you know what? I forgive them. They may not know. Or maybe you've had to go up and personally ask, you know what? I don't know what I've done, but if I've offended you or you know what, you really offended me, and I've been holding on to it. That's why things have been tense. That's why I don't talk to you. And it's just, you know, opening up that gateway. And we have to ask God for that help to soften our hearts, to be open to that forgiveness, be able to forgive. Now, again, whether we can actually ask in person or we just ask in the spirit or through prayer, you know what, just asking for that forgiveness. He can help us, but you also have to want it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the most important. That's the main thing, is you have to want it. Because sometimes you're going to go, yeah, well, I want to, but, and it's getting that but out of the way. Are we still good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's getting that if out of the way. If only, but what if they don't accept my apology? We're good over there? You're looking at it strange.
No, I'm reading it.
Oh.
I'm reading the...
Okay.
There's people watching and writing, so I'm reading it.
Okay, I'm sorry.
You're good.
She's making a funny face. And in asking God for that help and that openness of opening our hearts and our minds to that, it gives us an opportunity to break those chains that are holding us back, or that we're letting hold us back, those shackles.
Mm-hmm.
And forgiveness is also an act of faith.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. That if we're willing to be open, to be vulnerable, and to put ourselves out there and susceptible to being hurt, but being able to go, maybe it's not the individual, but it's the voice they're listening to, that it's the enemy in their ear, because they may not know Jesus, or maybe they know Jesus, but they may not know Jesus in that respect. And we're going to read in 2 Corinthians 2, 8 through 11 about how those opportunities are given us, and as well as that, how faith is that. Forgiveness is that act of faith, being able to take us to that next step.
Mm-hmm. And Paul's writing him, he says, I therefore beg you to reinstate him in your affections and assure him of your love for him. For this was my purpose in writing you, to test your attitude and see if you would stand the test, whether you are obedient and altogether agreeable to following my orders in everything. If you forgive anyone anything, I too forgive that one. And what I have forgiven, if I have forgiven anything, has been for your sakes, in the presence and with the approval of Christ the Messiah, to keep Satan from getting the advantage over us, for we are not ignorant of his wiles and his intentions.
Yes. So as we've kind of circling back there, it's having that door open and harboring that offense, continually holding on to it, that in that obedience, we have to let that offense go. Because we can't be a Jesus, yet also stab people in the back. Is a good way to put it, being blunt. Or, being Jesus, but never, again, opening yourself up to being vulnerable, being real, and being able to just get to know people, because maybe they don't know that they're hurting, but there's a saying out there, it's hurt people hurt people, and they don't even know that they're hurting people.
Mm-hmm.
They're hurting because they hurt, and they don't know any other way to act. But in that forgiveness, though, that forgiveness gives you, again, breaking those chains to let you go from level to level of glory to glory that God has for you. And in those, you're going to have those times where you've been wronged, where you've been hurt, but it's, again, being able to walk through that with the peace and the calm that you're able to, or you're supposed to, and being able to go, it's not the person, I love the person, it's their behavior or what they're doing or saying.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Romans 12:18 or 12:19. Yes.
It says, Beloved, never avenge yourselves, but leave the way open for God's wrath, for it is written, Vengeance is mine, I will repay or requite, says the Lord.
Yes, that we are not to repay evil for evil, that it is God's. And He is a just God and He's a fair God. He is not angry. He's loving and kind, but He does take care of business. In my, I guess, opinion, in my viewing of that. It's finding that peace of mind, and it's removing the labels. It's removing that prison and removing yourself from being that prisoner. Again, I was one of them, and I have to say it was just here recently where I said I was stuck with a label. And I go, well, what's wrong with this label? I was being kind of naive. I'm like, oh, well, it's just this. Can it be that simple? And it was that simple. It was kind of taking one
Password.
capital M, Marvel, 1-8. There, everybody knows how to hack into my computer. Oh well. But for a week or so, I was holding myself prisoner. I wasn't letting myself advance. I was not probably preparing as well as I could have for the Bible study. And then I was also really struggling with going back to school. And I finally, like I said, the Lord brought it upon me. I prayed through it. I did a lot of research. And I found out, I'm like, it's just a label. And ultimately, it's someone who is hurt, someone who's offended, someone who's upset. Their emotions are running wild, and that's what's controlling them. And I had to take myself out of that equation. I go, they're just voicing their opinion. So what is mine? What is my own belief? What is my own understanding? And I had to go off that. And with that, though, I would set myself free. But I also had to forgive the person who was sending out kind of it was kind of fear-mongering of, this is this, and this is that. And I was like, I can't find a source. You're not giving me a source. You're not giving me an author. Give me something substance to it. Give me your basis. And I was finally able to release myself because I went, it's not them. It's not what happened. It's not a label. It's just an attack. It's just to get me distracted. It's to stop me from being on the path I'm supposed to be on. But through that, though, do you need forgiven? Do you need to ask for forgiveness? You don't have to raise your hands. Facebook world, you don't have to comment of yes, but if you want to, you can write amen or yes, absolutely. I know I do. And I have to do both. I have to forgive, but I also need to ask for that forgiveness sometimes. And there were a time today, and I was letting my emotions, I was letting my anger, I was letting my unmet expectation rile me up, and I had to go, wait, address the person to make sure that they're even aware there's an expectation or that there's aware of a hurt. And they go, nope, wasn't aware of it. They kind of know the expectation was there, but they had no idea where that level was, or that they even thought they were hurting me. I go, okay. So I had to ask for that forgiveness, but then there's also times I have to just forgive. Because I go, I don't know what I did, don't know what you did, but whatever it was, it's over, it's gone, I forgive you, and let's move on. With that, though, as we have that hurt, though, going into in need of a companion, I think it's in need of companionship in our book, going into that. There are times in that hurt that maybe it's what created that hurt, where you felt singled out, you're an outsider, you don't fit in. There's an actual kind of place, group that I just don't fit in. I've tried, and I've tried many times. I've talked to people, I've tried to be a part of the group, and I do not fit in. But in there, it's an activity I have to participate in. And I come home and I go, that just stinks, because because I don't fit in. I want to be a part of it, but I just am not going to be a part of it. And I've tried. And then I go, why am I not a part of it? And I'll go cry to my husband. And I go, why don't they like me? And they don't talk to me and blah, blah, blah. And then they gossip. And I was like, I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that. And I go, he's like, well, hallelujah, praise God, you don't fit in.
Right.
I go, what? What? What do you mean? He's like, because you get to be the one eventually to stand up and go, this is not okay. Because what we'll say they're adults are creating and harboring and doing and behaviors is the example for the younger generation.
Mhm.
And that's not okay. Because then the adults go, well, younger generation is doing XYZ when they found it done by ABC.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
That's tough to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, I don't have time for ABC, and I sure don't want X, Y, and Z
Mm-hmm.
with those replications.
Mhm.
A couple weeks ago, my youngest was saying bad things about herself. Like, she'd do something, and I would just try to, say, yes, baby, that works, or no, I can't do that right now. And she'd go, I'm horrible, I'm mean, I'm just a screw up, nobody wants me. And I'd ask her, I'm like, where did you hear that? I don't know. Okay. Try something new. I'm horrible, I'm screw up, I'm so mean, nobody loves me, I'm just... Okay, where are you getting that? I found out, though, that my influence, now it wasn't mine personally, but it was a movie. And as soon as I took that movie out of the equation,
Mhm.
made a huge difference.
Mhm.
And I was even telling one of my friends about it. And even within the couple weeks that we talked about it, there's been a big change of behavior and attitude as well as words. And
Mhm.
through the study group, we've talked earlier about how much our words matter.
Mhm.
Why they matter. What do they do? How they make us feel. How they make others feel. And then ultimately, what do they do in your world? Because what you say, you attract. Off course there, but Genesis 2:18.
Mhm.
You're going to tell me what that says?
It goes back to the point of the companionship part of it, where it says, "Now the Lord said, it is not good, sufficient, satisfactory that man should be alone. I will make him a helper meet, suitable, adaptable, and complementary for him."
Yes. So, being singled out or being one individual, it's not good to be by yourself. I mean, and in the physical realm, you're like, I'm all alone. Nobody wants to be around me. But we're supposed to have others. And we'll get there as to where we get those others, where we find our tribe, where we build our circle. Going on to 1 Corinthians 4:4 of then finding those friends that who don't judge.
I am not conscious of anything against myself, and I feel blameless, but I am not vindicated and acquitted before God on that account. It is the Lord himself who examines and judges me.
What's that scripture again?
1 Corinthians 4:4.
Okay.
So, in those finding those friends, I'm so blessed and I'm so thankful for each and every one that come to my house, because it is lived in. It's not a museum. And they accept me for that. It's a big step for me. 'Cause
Amen.
I had, and I still do, it gets me, a pride issue, a confidence issue with what the appearance was. And how they're going to accept that. And finally, I had to, again, pray it, seek it, just kind of work through it of just letting people in and going, you know what, this is just me. I'm going to be real. This is raw. And it's learning to grow through that, though. Because we aren't supposed to judge. We're supposed to be Jesus. We're supposed to love others exactly where they're at. It doesn't matter if they're way up here with museum house, you know, immaculate, or if they're dirt floors and barely 2 windows and a door.
Hey, that's my building.
Praise I was not in any way
No.
meaning that, but it's meeting them exactly where they're at. It doesn't matter they're, you know, whether they're high quality or what we want to call low quality. It's loving that individual.
Mm-hmm.
And it's being a friend to that individual and just being encouraging to that individual that maybe you were there. We were there. Not so much to the dirt floors, but it was close.
Mm-hmm.
Of barely having a house to live in, and knowing that people before me had barely a house to live in, and now they have a house that's paid off, and they have 2 cars that are paid off. That he will graduate you to those levels, to where your belief is, where your trust is, where your hurt or hindrance is, but also where he can give it to you and you're faithful with it. But as we're singled out and we're judged, because we are judged, I mean, the world judges, it's asking, though, you know, where do I fit in? Am I loved? Do I have significance? And we do. We are. We are already loved. God loves us. He loved us from the beginning. He loved us before he even knit us in our mother's wombs. He loved us. He chose us. He created us. He created us so he could have companionship, which is so awesome. You know, and that most important relationship is with Jesus, with God, finding that time, building that relationship up, it being very intimate and close, that it doesn't matter if you're having a good day or a bad day or don't know where you can go. It's me again. I do it a lot. I go, it's me again. What should I wear today? Lord, how do I cook this? It's me again. Or, you know what? It's me again. I'm just having a bad day. I need help. Explain it. What? No. Oh, no.
Talking about God.
No, I already moved the chairs, thanks. I'll move the other half furniture later. Good to know he's always there to come rescue me. I mean, he created us. He intended us to make an impact on lives. And we're supposed to speak, show that love, that encouragement. And the word says we're destined to be in people's lives. We have divine appointments that we're supposed to meet. And if we're not in that obedience that we talked about just a few minutes ago, how are we going to get there if we're still holding on to that bitterness and offense? What I have found, though, in being singled out, though, I had to sow in order to reap what I wanted. Now, I've been very open and honest through this whole thing that I was not nice before really getting to know Christ and rededicating my life. And even through that process, that I was friendly, but I was not going to let other people's lives get on me. That I would have you at arm's length. I love you. Yes, you're nice. Hey, shoulder hug. But that's it. You're not going to get a text. You're not going to get a, hey, how are you? You're not going to get a Snapchat of crazy hairdo. You're going to get a hi in church, and that's where I'm going to leave you. Because I didn't want your mess on me. And partially, I didn't want to share my mess with you.
Mm-hmm.
But I found that if I wanted friends, I had to sow a good friend.
Mhm.
Actually, I think it's one of the first few that I was just looking to meet people. A lot of it was, so I'm like, however I got there, and especially my chocolate friends, you know, and I tried to be as I'm like, but how do I put it in a politically correct way that's not offensive, but not, and ultimately I'm like, I'm just going to go at it as my children went at it, and they're like, Mom, I have chocolate friends. So I'm like, I'm going to go have chocolate friends. And I love my chocolate friends. But I had to sow that. And we sowed that. We loved on Ashley because we just want somebody to love on us. And now it's being in return. Ashley is loving on us. But yet then we get to go right back and we get to love on Ashley. Same thing with Dana. Like, I'd seen her around serving. I'm like, I know her. But it wasn't until a volunteering point where I got to go, this is me. It's rainy, cold, and wet. This is no fun. Got Starbucks. You want Starbucks? I happen to get two. Whatever it was. And it was being able to then just go, real and raw. Here's life. We're going to serve. We're going to make the best of it. Same thing with Cassie.
When we found out we're as weird as each other.
Right? It's kids of my kids and this, and then it went, well, I'm doing the same thing. Oh, someone else is living that life.
Oh, yeah.
And it's then finding that it didn't matter where you were. It didn't matter where I was. We all had a mess, and we all had situations, but it was being able to have someone to link arms with and to walk through that with. Moving on, I think we're going to hear about that sowing in 2 Corinthians 9:6.
If y'all don't know this verse by now from going to church.
I know.
It is, remember this, he who sows sparingly and grudgingly will also reap sparingly and grudgingly, and he who sows generously that blessings may come to someone will also reap generously and with blessings.
Yes, and it's also in season.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to sow what you want to reap. You can't be planting tomatoes and wanting
Carrots.
corn or carrots. Yes. You have to look for it. You have to pursue it. Kind of got there, went through that. It's being that friend
Mm-hmm.
who's showing that attention, as we talked about, that favor. Being that leader, showing them how God is merciful, He is favorable, He can provide, He does provide, and just be willing to, again, cry when they cry and smile when they smile. And we know as we sow, we get to reap for that because we've talked about that you get those windows of heavens opened up, but you also get it supplied back, which you'll find in Luke 6:38, which we talk about quite a bit.
Another one we should all know.
Yes.
Give, and gifts will be given to you, good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. Will they pour into the pouch formed by the bosom of your robe, and used as a bag? For with the measure you deal out, with the measure you use, when you confer benefits on others, it will be measured back to you.
I think it's King James, but I'll look it up here in mine. It says that men will pour into your bosoms. So meaning that whatever you're looking for, it's already here on earth. Matthew, Mark, Luke. Aha, there you are. I'm getting better at finding the books in here in order.
It is that one.
638. The King James Version?
Yes. It says it.
Okay, so will you read that for me, Cassie?
Give, and it shall be given unto you, good measure, pressed down and shaken together, and running over, shall men give into your bosom. For with the same measure that ye meet withal, it shall be measured to you again.
Yes. So, if you're looking for that friend, you have to sow in and sow for that friend. For is 1 Peter 1:7 says that those friends are precious gifts.
So that the genuineness of your faith may be tested, your faith which is indefinitely more precious than the perishable gold which is tested and purified by fire. This proving of your faith is intended to redound to your praise and glory and honor when Jesus Christ, the Messiah, the Anointed One, is revealed. That's 1 Peter 1:7.
It's a long one.
Mm-hmm.
We could
Wait,
shorten
I
that up there,
don't-
but anyways, those friends are the precious gifts, which, you know, as he talked about in other numerous that, I guess it's probably been stated to me that if earth with its precious endowments and treasures is just a taste of heaven, what is that even? I mean, how awesome, how mighty is that, where the gems and the metals were streets paved of gold, pearly gates. I want that pearl just to make one gate.
Mm-hmm.
That if those are just a taste of what God's
Things are, yeah.
Majesty is,
Mm-hmm.
I can't even comprehend that. But I know that, again, I truly value the friendships that I have because I've learned to appreciate them. Before I'm like, and probably in high school, like we go, oh yeah, I have friends. But it's in those times of hurt or in that time of brokenness that you go, who are my real friends?
Mm-hmm.
And they're the ones who are standing there beside you. And I found that most of the time it's not family.
And they're the ones that'll be more honest with you when you need it. Like,
Yes.
you're being an idiot.
Don't be that up front with me. No.
Bring it on.
But in that sowing, that reaping, we also have to call it in,
Mm-hmm.
as we know. We have to call in that we want good friends who are honorable, trustworthy,
All of that.
strong,
Mm-hmm.
and not just like strong physically, but strong faithfully. That they're going to ground you back into, maybe you have your stinking thinking on, but they're going to go, wait. What was pastor's message? Or, what did class just say? Or,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe you're just totally off base. So let's bring them back around because they are maybe an emotional state that they just need that kind of that vent, but they also then need that reaffirmation. And Romans 4:17 tells us about favor of friends.
Mm-hmm. As it is written, I have made you the father of many nations. He was appointed our father in the sight of God in whom he believed, who gives life to the dead and speaks of the non-existent things that he has foretold and promised as if they already existed.
Yes. So call in that friend. You may not have it now, but keep speaking it that you have good, truthful, faithful friends who will be there for you, and they will be.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to build that circle. You have to build those relationships, though.
Mm-hmm.
You have to sow into that. We all kind of have that. It's more of a secular thing, but it's your vibe attracts your
Mm-hmm.
tribe. We have to be that light, that love of Jesus that we want to see in the world. In there, though, we have to be thankful for where we're at and thankful for what we do have in that time. Making the intentional time for God, because He only has that true place and position in your life, that one true, real, intimate relationship and friendship that we desire. That's what truly fills that gap in our heart and our souls.
Mm-hmm.
Now we can have those outwardly friends which help kind of maybe pad that, but we have to be intentional about putting God first in that place, because He's the only one who can be there. Even though we want those worldly friends to uphold us, as the Bible says, we have to also put our focus back to where it really is, and that's on Him, the one true companion. Because there may be just one of us left, and as long as there's one of us who knows who we are in Christ, He'll be right there with us.
Mm-hmm.
Going into a new name. Now, it's a group question, but how do you see yourself? Because I labeled this one, it's new name, but it's our identity. So kind of finding our identity, or what is our identity? How do you see yourself? I put notes here of, do you see yourself clearly, or are you tarnished? Most days I see myself tarnished. I don't see what God sees, and I struggle with that. But He reassures me that He will be there no matter what. How about you, Cassie? How do you see yourself?
More tarnished than not.
Okay.
It's a struggle sometimes to, not sometimes, a lot of times to get past what's being said around me. It's hard for me to accept the good when I hear when it does come.
Right.
So.
How about you, ladies, people, folks?
For me, I see myself as tarnished more often than not. And for me, it's because I am a loner, and I am trying to learn how not to be a loner. And so it's hard to get out of your head if that's the only head you have around. So
Yeah.
I'm like, if you're not calling on anyone else, it's just you and your bubble driving yourself crazy.
Yeah.
And so then you have to like come to your senses and like let Jesus bring you back in, and then, but yeah, so me, tarnished and working on it.
Yes. Yes, I'm with you. How about you, Miss?
It's definitely shifted from how I used to view myself. I mean, there's still the tarnished side of things, but at the same time, it's more of that, I say the kind of like an old art piece that's been restored.
Yes.
You know, it's still tarnished and you can still see it, but
It has new life.
it does, because like, you know, I said a couple weeks ago, I went through a very mentally and emotionally abusive relationship, and like, it takes a lot. I mean, it'll strip your identity, and so there for a while I didn't have an identity, and it wasn't until I literally got back into the Word and back around people that had a different viewpoint that I was able to find out, you know, to be able to change my perspective. And I still struggle with it, because there's days that, you know, people give me compliments and I'm like, yeah, yeah, like,
You always have the cutest shoes, though. So
that is true.
yes.
Yeah, but I mean, it's
No, we want to be. Yeah. I mean, we want to be pleasing,
mhm,
but it seems like we continually foul it up, screw up, mess up. We get mad. Do something dumb, or other dumb people do something dumb.
dumb people.
Maybe it's like driving, or it's in those days though where it's like a dance. It's 0 steps ahead and 3 steps backwards, and you're like, I did it one more time. I screwed up again. We know Isaiah 55:9 of how God really views us. We have to really be open to accepting that.
It says, "For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts."
Yes, His ways are not our ways. His eyes and views are not our views. And He sees us as whole, beautiful, complete, worthy. And we just go, nope, nope. My hair's not right. My eye's the wrong color. I have too much jiggle around the middle. My butt's too saggy.
Go around the middle.
Yes. But God looks at the heart. And humans and people in the world look on the outside. That what God sees and what he calls us is totally different than what we truly really are. Like, he sees our potential if only we could tap into that.
Mm-hmm.
And Isaiah 16, no,
Yes.
First
Samuel.
Samuel 16:7. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But the Lord said to Samuel, "Look not on his appearance or at the height of his stature, for I have rejected him. For the Lord sees not as a man sees. For man looks on the outward appearance, but the Lord looks on the heart."
And in your book, if you have it, the High God book that we're going through, there's one over there behind you if you need one, Ladina.
Mm-hmm.
On page 109, it just it gives us a list of people who God saw differently
Than they did.
than even what they were, and probably even how they saw themselves. And I just want to read through that when God saw Simon, let me go back here. When a man called Simon denied you, you saw a rock and called him Peter. In Saul, a mass murderer of Christians, you saw Paul,
Mm-hmm.
the writer of 2/3 of the New Testament. In Jacob, who in nowadays would have called a slippery used car salesman type, there's other professions I would put that name to. Even a trickster he called Jacob. But you saw a man, you called him triumphant with God, and you named him Israel. He saw so much more great potential
Mm-hmm.
than what that person was willing to acknowledge or unlock.
Mm-hmm.
And what we call ourselves is important. Are we the slippery used car salesman? Are we the mass murderer who he turned around and he said, who wrote 2/3 of the New Testament? Or are we someone reached down in the gutter and pulled up, was now able to share the gospel? So what we call ourselves is important.
Mm-hmm.
We are kingly priests. We have a king priesthood. We're supposed to be living heaven on earth because we're called to do that. And 1 Peter 2:9 tells us about being that king priesthood.
Mm-hmm. It says, "But you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a dedicated nation, God's own purchased special people, that you may set forth the wonderful deeds and display the virtues and perfections of him who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light."
So we get to be that person out of the gutter
Mm-hmm.
and in that marvelous light, sharing the gospel and bringing more people into the kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we are precious treasures as well. We are God's precious treasures. And as we know, those are highly favorable. Now, we can be shy. You can take someone who's shy, probably more like myself, until you get to know me. And then you're like, oh my gosh, does she ever shut up? And he can turn you into a public speaker, kind of like myself. Or he can take, I'm just going to use bodybuilders, people who lift weights for maybe enjoyment, maybe they did it for competitions. And he can take that person who goes, you know, this is my identity, I lift weights, I'm strong, who's supposed to be handling babies.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's their calling. Where it's two dynamically different potentials that they weren't willing to identify with.
Mm.
And you really find your identity. We're supposed to find our identity in Christ Jesus. That we're not of this world. We are not what these other people were. We're not what we were when he found us. And Isaiah 55:11.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead and read that for me.
Okay. So shall my word be that goes forth out of my mouth. It shall not return to me void, without producing any effect, useless. But it shall accomplish that which I please and purpose, and it shall prosper in the thing for which I sent it.
So he's given his word out. He's already spoke it. He did that from the beginning. He said, you know what? I'm going to create a world. I'm going to create life. He's already planted that word in and on the earth. Are we speaking those words? Are we sending back his word void? Is it creating something? We were not given a spirit of fear. We were given a spirit of strength and a sound mind.
Mm-hmm.
But we are overcomers. We are blessed. We are victors. We are not victims. The best one is that we are holy and we are chosen. That's who we are. We're not the slippery salesman. We're not the mass murderer. We're not, someone who's denied him.
Mm-hmm.
We are righteous. We are whole. And in those, again, we have to be willing to call ourselves that. And 2 Timothy 1:7 gives me help there.
Mm-hmm. It says, for God did not give us a spirit of timidity, of cowardice, of craven, and cringing and fawning fear, but he has given us a spirit of power and of love and of calm and well-balanced mind and discipline and self-control.
So he's given us that, and we already know we can do all things through Jesus Christ who strengthens us. Ultimately, he's created that royal masterpiece. And we find that royal masterpiece in 1 Corinthians 3:10.
Mm-hmm. Says, according to the grace, the special endowment for my task of God bestowed on me, like a skillful architect and master builder, I laid the foundation, and now another man is building upon it, but let each man be careful how he builds upon it.
So he is that master builder. He is that manufacturer.
Mm-hmm.
And not just like any manufacturer. We already know that we are royal, and we have the best maker there is out there. How are we doing on time?
10 minutes.
Sweet. We were created to do great things. The question is now, are we letting our old name hold us back?
Mm-hmm.
Or are we willing to step out and change that identity, be called by a new name, and join him in that marvelous light?
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's doing those marvels, those wonders. That's really, again, why I called it that, because we're supposed to produce those.
Mm-hmm.
That they go, I would have never saw that if it had not been for, or how did that even happen? Well, it happened because she has an almighty God, and she's not afraid to kind of enforce him or use him.
Mm-hmm.
So going in then to, we want to be happy. So we have our feelings, we have our identity, we want friendships, right? But we want to be happy, and that's also our feelings. We have our normal days, we're content, everything's going okay, it's not great, but then we step out the front door. Yep, we step out the front door. We have that little bit of, something triggered my road rage attitude. And I'm not going to let it go down. I'm going to continually flare it, or maybe because I didn't take the time to ask God how he wants my day to go, it seems like everything's going to go downhill from there. We end up with that rude coworker, We find someone rude at the grocery store, or maybe it's that car who cut you off in the far left lane of, your own private lane, as I think our pastor calls it.
His
Yep.
personal lane.
Yes,
My personal lane.
your personal lane. I'm in the grandma lane. Doesn't matter how fast I get there, you're going to hurry up and wait. Wait for what? Next red light? Next stop sign? Because I look over and I'm like, the car that passed me is right there in front of me. I'm like, look where it got you. Like, you weren't going to get there any sooner. We let our happiness, it's gone. Gone. But James 1, 2 through 3 says we're to count it all joy.
Mm-hmm. Do you mean to read verse 4 too?
Yeah.
Or just 2 through 3?
No,
Okay.
you can still go for it. See what 4 provides for us.
It's the rest of it. That's what I was asking.
go
So
for it.
it says, "Consider it wholly joyful, my brethren, whenever you are enveloped in an encounter or trials of any sort, or fall into various temptations. Be assured and understand that the trial and proving of your faith bring out endurance and steadfastness and patience. But let endurance and steadfastness and patience have full play and do through a work, so that you may be people perfectly and fully developed, lacking in nothing."
So we're to count it all joy in those times of hurt and sorrow, and in those times of everything is going great, it's all good, I have no cares in the world. Let me look where I'm at there. I have a couple notes. I'm like, what was I thinking? Do-do-do-do. My little superhero call, just so anybody really needs to know. Okay. Anyways, well, in those times, as I was going before, I had kind of a brain freeze that we let road rage, or we just let the world smack us as we go out the front door. That it's not, we shouldn't let those small things ruin our whole day. That it's not an entire loss. It's those mere moments that we can still find joy in the larger part of our day. But it's in those instances that, again, we have an enemy. There is a spiritual dark realm. Totally believe it. Heaven is real. Hell is just as real. That he's out there and he's just trying to hijack your day. He's just trying to hijack your joy. He's trying to hijack your calm, your peace. And the best way I can tell you to deal with that is you win or lose by the way you choose. You can win the day by going, you know what? I'm going to count it all joy I got that flat tire, because 5 minutes sooner there was a wreck. If I would have had that. I don't know. Or you know what? If you just take it what they are, you let your temper get away with you, you're going to, you know what? It's just one of those days. Nothing good's happened. You're exactly right. Nothing good's going to happen because you let him take that away from you. He's hijacked it. My question to you is, what is the value of your joy? What kind of value do you put on it? I've had to learn I had to put a pretty hefty price tag on it. Anybody else? Are you sure? Then why you keep selling it for 25 cents?
Why are you looking at me?
I'm not. I'm just looking.
I'm just kidding.
I'm just looking. Why are you selling it for 25 cents? That's really what you're doing. You're letting $1's worth of discomfort take away your $1 million of happiness. Why are you selling it so cheap? Because we know the enemy's a thief. The enemy's a liar. You can go back to Genesis 3, where he, was a conniving little bugger and took away Adam and Eve's planet. He did, because he lied, he twisted words, he, you know what, he just used them. He put a thought in their head, questioned what they really knew, and got away with it.
Mhm.
He's there just to rip you off. Again, he's a spoiler of peace. He's a liar. But here's the thing. Stop giving away your joy. Because ultimately, enemy has no power. He has none. All he can do is use your own voice, which is in our head, give you a thought, and let you run with it.
Mhm.
He only has as much power as you're willing to let him have,
Mhm.
you're willing to give him. We're just about wrapped up, so I'll wrap it up there. I won't. I still didn't get all the way through my notes. Woohoo! Finally, one of those nights. That all he's doing, he's ripping you off. And John 10:10
Mhm.
gonna give me some help there.
Says the thief comes only in order to steal and kill and destroy. I came that they may have life and enjoy it and have it abundance to the full until it overflows.
So why are you selling your joy for so cheap? Almost done. Okay. So if we're supposed to have life and life more abundantly, and we know the thief is here to steal, kill, and destroy, why are you giving him the combo to the bank safe? Why are you giving it away? Anybody? Anybody wants to answer that? Is it just easier? I kind of found living both ways of, lots of money and no money, and even where I'm at today, is you kind of get what you pay for. If you're going to give it away cheap, he's going to take it away cheap. But if you're going to make him work for it, he's going to have to work for it. Make him earn it.
Mhm.
Because most of the time, if you resist him, as it says, he has to flee. He does flee. Make him work for it. Quit giving your joy away. Because there was a time I was like, I was going to let my joy go away over a spilled cup of milk. I can't fix it. Can't pour it back in the glass. Why get all upset? It's milk. It's table. It's a couple pieces of paper towel. Why am I getting all twisted up? It's an accident. They're called accidents for a reason. They're not called on purposes.
Mhm.
Now, again, in there though, to fill that void, to be happy, to let go of some of that nitpicking, pointy, I'm just going to poke at you, that the enemy does. Just fill that time, fill that space. You fill it with prayer. You fill it with forgiveness. Maybe you fill it with a wave as you're driving by, or you fill it with a smile, since they're, having a bad day at the cashier, so might as well show them your teeth. Make it fun.
Your teethers.
That's right, my twofers. Psalm 146:5 talks about that.
Happy, blessed, fortunate, and inviolable is he who has the God of special revelation to Jacob for his help, whose hope is in the Lord his God.
Yes. And on top of that, since we do have the God of Jacob, we've been told also over and over. Does anybody want to take a guess what we've been told over and over?
Guard your heart.
Yes. Guard your heart, guard your mind, guard your soul. Proverbs 4:23 is going to discuss that a little bit more for me.
Keep and guard your heart with all vigilance, and above all that you guard, for out of it, above all that you guard it, for out of it flows the springs of life. It's missing a word. Sorry. Go ahead.
It's missing a word.
Yeah.
Okay. So in other words,
God, your heart.
don't let anything in there that's going to contaminate it, that's going to pollute it. But don't let him in. Quit giving him the keys. Guard your heart. Guard your eyes. Guard your ears. That includes what you watch, what you listen to, what you talk about. Are you gossiping? Are you sure? Are you watching maybe unclean TV? I'm actually one of those that can say I've never watched an episode of Game of Thrones. I've never watched
Me too.
the motorcycle gang TV show, whatever that was.
Sons of Anarchy.
Yes.
I've never watched it. I just.
Again, I don't even know the name of it. I just know it was on there. But
I knew too many people who.
there was a time I watched, it's been 6-7 years ago, it was a TV show called Vikings. It was on about the time the Bible series come on. I think it was 7 years ago, 6-7 years ago. I'd watch the Bible series and I'd go right in to watch Vikings. So it's like, oh yeah, like this is so cool. I can't even bring myself to turn it on because it just disturbs me now. So it's, what are you watching? What are you listening to? What are you hearing? Again, it was going back to, what am I letting my kids listen to? And making sure that they have the right influences. And guarding their hearts and their eyes, their ears. Because that is all gateways to what eventually what's inside of us comes out. But as you go through your day-to-day and you have those hiccups, I'll call them, maybe. I was going to say it's okay to see the collateral beauty in it. It's okay to see the beauty in the wreckage. But instead, I wasn't sure how that would be taken, but I went, it's okay to see the beauty in the dust. You know, that no matter what it is, there's still beauty in whatever what the situation was. We have value. Our joy is value. It is precious. It is high, should have a high value. I'm almost done. Give me 2 more minutes. In those times, though, as it says, we are to count it all joy. But in counting it all joy, we are to rejoice. And in that rejoicing, we should do it day and night. And rejoice, again, means to do it again. And joy is to be happy or cheerful. And Philippians 4:4 will just about close us out. I think we have one more after that.
Okay. Rejoice in the Lord always. Gladden yourselves in Him. Again, I say rejoice.
So, what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to rejoice. Count it all joy. But also back in Joshua, as we're rejoicing, as we're supposed to be meditating, filling our time with the Lord, with His Word, He says to do it night and day. And you'll find that in Joshua 1:8.
This book of the law shall not depart out of your mouth, but you shall meditate on it day and night, that you may observe and do according to all that is written in it. For then you shall make your way prosperous, and then you shall deal wisely and have good success.
Awesome. Yes. So tonight we covered a lot. I didn't get all the way through my notes, but I'm okay with that. I really hope everyone got something from tonight. I know the Spirit gave it to me rather quick and fast and furious when He did press it upon me, as to start preparing. But this week, really take time to just sit with the Lord and ask for that forgiveness, give that forgiveness, maybe find those times where you've given away your joy a little bit too inexpensively, but also find your identity of who you really are, because again, we all, kind of stated we see ourselves as tarnished, but maybe we should be looking at ourselves more clearly through God's eyes of who we are and what we could be.
Mm-hmm.
With that, we'll go ahead and close out in prayer. Anybody want to close us out? Cassie, my closer? Yes. All right.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for those of us who are here, those who are watching online, those who couldn't be here and want to be here. Protect us this week as we dig deeper, because that's when the devil wants to show up and attack. As we get deeper, he wants to close in on us, and I just rebuke that now for all of us. Bless us in our travels as we go out, and bring us back next week. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Amen.